Alistair, the eldest son of the Xia family, was known for his rigid adherence to rules and propriety. To prevent him from becoming a laughingstock, I shattered my pride and memorized 3,000 family precepts, transforming myself into a woman grown from the manor house, until he brought back a little spitfire from outside. At the dinner table, he would make me swallow the stones I bit into. But when the woman frowned, he couldn't help but hold his hand out to her. Spit it out quickly. That was when I realized that some rules could be broken. That evening, after watering the flowers and brewing tea, I calmly mentioned divorce to him. He laughed. Eleanor, a woman as rigid as you, is she learning to play these games? Fine, you can get a divorce. But remember to attend grandfather's birthday banquet. He only recognizes you. Alistair forgot that there was one rule among the 3,000 family precepts. A woman who has left the Xia family once can never return. I truly will never look back. In the 5 years I lived in the Xia family's ancestral home, whenever crab season came, there would always be such a scene. When biting into that hard crab shell, my teeth would tremble, as if some sharp edge had pierced through, drawing out a fishy sweet blood. But in the end, I had to swallow it numbly. It was at that moment that Piper threw her chopsticks onto the table. Alistair kicked back his chair and rushed to her, disregarding all decorum as he held out his hand. Did you bite into a crab shell? Spit it out quickly. The girl looked embarrassedly at everyone at the table and mumbled, Alistair, gee, everyone's watching. Alistair snorted in displeasure, and simply pinched the woman's cheeks, forcing her to spit it out. They're all used to it, have you gotten used to it too? In that instant, the spoon crashed into the bottom of the white porcelain bowl. A corner of my heart felt like it had been burned away by someone. Such outrageous words coming from Alistair's mouth? The Xia family was a scholarly family, from their ancestors to Alistair's generation. Everyone adhered to the family rules, protecting the ancestral property, memorizing the ancestral precepts, and worshipping at the ancestral hall. No one dared to speak or chat at the dinner table, even more afraid that the sound of chewing would be too loud for the ancestors to hear. Even a sound like a ticking clock would result in family discipline. In the past 5 years, I don't know how many times I knelt in the ancestral hall for this, or how many lashes I received. Alistair never said a single word of comfort for me, only lectured me repeatedly. Eleanor, you must be a wife worthy of the Xia family. This is a hurdle you must overcome, you must endure it. But today, when grandmother slammed her hand on the table, Alistair stood in front of Piper. She's not a member of the Xia family, the family discipline can't be used on her. If anything was done wrong, punish me alone. When Alistair stood up straight and blocked Piper, he didn't even look at me. As if I were just an ordinary decoration in this decaying household. The determination to divorce was made at that moment. The Xia family's rules I had adhered to for 5 years. Turns out, they could also be broken. Crab shells that can't be chewed don't have to be swallowed. A person who can't be loved no matter how hard I try can also be unloved. Thinking about it, the year I married Alistair, I was just like Piper now, only 22 years old. Graduated early, full of naive innocence. Flying from Nanyu to Yunzhou, where the Xia family was located, I only brought a 20-inch suitcase. Even now, the Xia family still talked about it with great interest. A little girl who didn't even know what kind of place the Xia family was just barged in, and declared confidently that she had no intention of going back after coming to the Xia family. At that time, I really didn't know what kind of place the Xia family was. Sending grandmother peonies, I was thrown out the door with the vase and all. Later I learned that grandmother hated peonies the most. Grandfather had an affair with an actress named Peony for more than 10 years. Handling the Xia family's relationships, I casually sent out an incense burner from the Yuan dynasty, causing the 7 aunts and 8 aunts to toss and turn for half a month. Preparing for the wedding, I violated the Xia family's taboos. On the wedding night, I was dragged into the ancestral hall and made to kneel for 3 whole days. The reason why Alistair is so tired of me now is because I came too early and was too obedient. When he was drunk, he would grab my collar again and again. Eleanor, you've really delayed me for so many years. I never wanted to admit in the past that I had delayed him. Anyone outside who saw me would say that besides me, no one could be the Xia family's wife. But seeing Alistair following behind Piper, I no longer thought so. The young master who had grown up pampered in a large clan, looking gentle and refined, actually hid a rebellious streak in his heart. Piper had only been here for 2 months. Alistair, and she smashed the windows of their third and fourth uncles, fished out the koi that had been raised in Hidden Moon Lake for decades, and angered grandfather into the hospital 3 times. Each time, it was I who cleaned up Alistair's mess, apologizing and running all over Yunzhou to find a similar fish fry of the same color. At night, I went to the hospital to be a caregiver, helping grandfather with his bowel movements, not closing my eyes for almost half a month. And then today came. Alistair, go to the ancestral hall and get the whip. Don't even think about coming out until you've knelt for a day and a night. Doing things one day has its own reason. I had just finished sending a message to a friend, asking her to draft a divorce agreement for me. Grandmother's message came. Eleanor, go add 2 more blankets for Alistair. It's too cold kneeling in the ancestral hall. Don't let him freeze. I thought, this is the reason why Alistair dared to violate the ancestral precepts again and again. Piper had him protecting her. He had grandmother protecting him. But the person in the vast Xie family who would protect me was already gone. The lights in the ancestral hall were on. Not mentioning Piper, Alistair was a person who abided by the rules. His back was straight, like he had come from the army. I stared at Alistair's back for a long time, just about to push the door open, when I heard muffled sobs from inside. Alistair, it's all my fault. If I hadn't insisted on coming to the Xie family for an in-depth interview, if I hadn't wanted to follow Eleanor's example and abide by the Xie family's rules, you wouldn't have been whipped. In the flickering candlelight, I saw the faint whip marks on Alistair's back. Before he would have already been yelling in pain, waking me up from my sleep, torturing me to apply the medicine little by little for him. Not too heavy, but not too light. But now, with Piper practically hanging on his neck, he didn't say a single harsh word. His voice hoarse, he said, "Why are you crying? It doesn't hurt. The family members know their limits when they strike, it just looks scary." Piper didn't believe him, tears falling like strings of pearls, and she started making a fuss again. "Alistair, you wait. I've remembered everyone who hit you today, and tomorrow I'll fill their shoes with iron nails. See if they dare to touch you then." The silliness was almost overflowing, but Alistair seemed to enjoy it. He pinched her nose, his voice light and clear. "You're just full of clever little ideas. Listen, don't stay up with me, go back to sleep." Alistair was the eldest son of the Xie family. He knew better than anyone how strict the Xie family's rules were. The Xie family ancestral hall was never allowed to house outsiders overnight, let alone foreign women. I didn't know how Alistair had avoided his uncle's watch. Despite his repeated attempts to persuade her, Piper didn't leave. Instead, the shirt he had hastily buttoned up had buttons scattered all over the floor. Seeing Piper still clinging to him and not letting go, Alistair's voice wavered, his body bending slightly forward, trying to conceal the stirring of something. "Piper, stop it, get down." But a man's resistance sometimes implies a deeper seduction. When Alistair didn't push Piper away as he would push me, I knew that he felt differently about his junior sister. In the past, with my prudishness and desire to not see what was not appropriate, I would have already run away with my quilt. But that night, I didn't know why. My feet felt like they were filled with lead. Piper unbuckled Alistair's belt and whispered in his ear, "Just try it once. Please, Alistair." Alistair pressed down on her hand. "I can't. Piper." Piper wasn't someone who gave up so easily. "Are you saying you can't because you want to save yourself for Eleanor?" The next second, I heard Alistair's cold laugh. "Eleanor, a woman like her. I'm afraid she'd be stripped naked by a man and still be like a log, right?" The autumn wind chilled me to the bone. Holding 2 quilts, I couldn't feel a trace of warmth. So that's what Alistair thought of me. I didn't mind him saying I was dull or awkward. But stripped naked by a man and still like a log? Thinking of my own past of intimately intertwined moments with a man, I dropped the quilts and fled in panic. Alistair was wrong. I was once more proactive than his junior sister, more domineering in demanding someone's love. Even coming to the Xie family begging for an answer was for that person. However, he had never seen that side of me, and he would never have the chance to see it. The garden was very large. I ran around like a headless fly, and ended up in an abandoned old garden. Everywhere else in the house was brightly lit. Only here was overgrown with weeds, as if it hadn't been maintained for years. Shining my flashlight into each room, I was surprised to find that the contents of the rooms had been emptied overnight, with nothing left on the tables or in the cabinets. Suspicion clouded my mind until, in a corner, I found a military medal. Not a real one, crudely carved, the bright red color already faded. Only the 3 words on the back of the medal seemed to be engraved in my heart. Xia Chong Su. My legs went weak, and large tears fell. The next instant, a powerful beam of flashlight light fell on me. I heard Alistair's shocked and fearful roar. "Eleanor, what are you doing here in the middle of the night?" I hid the military medal in my sleeve. I froze for a few seconds, rubbed the tears from my eyes. I got lost. Alistair breathed a sigh of relief, the gloom on his face slowly fading, believing my words. "Don't come to places like this again. With your rigid ways, you'll easily encounter a ghost." The light beam pierced straight through the road ahead. Alistair seemed very afraid of that place, dragging me away as if fleeing. But I looked back again and again, thinking of only one thing. If I had just encountered a ghost, would I have been able to see him? The drifting thoughts were put away until Alistair brought me back to my room. He rummaged through the drawers, but couldn't find what he was looking for. Turning back, trying to conceal his true intentions, he asked me, "Eleanor, don't just stand there. Where's the painkiller you always keep? Piper might be on her period. She's in a lot of pain. She needs it right away." If I ignored the large red marks on Alistair's collarbone, I might actually have believed him. I coldly shook off his hand. "It's not here, I'll go get it." After searching for almost half the night, when I came out of the storage room, the sky was beginning to lighten, the blue afterglow illuminating Alistair. As if his back was too painful, he bent over and sighed. This scene made it difficult not to think of the past. I couldn't help but walk over to him and reach out my hand. "Alistair, does it hurt a lot?" The man turned around, met the deep affection in my eyes, and hooked me in with a smile. "So proactive. Are you upset that I didn't keep you company last night?" But I woke up as if from a dream, and stuffed the medicine into his hand. "Hurry up, your junior sister is still waiting for you." Alistair was stunned, and let go of me with some helplessness. "Tsk Eleanor, hot and cold, what's wrong with you? Besides, Piper is just a little girl, don't be angry with her." I coldly tossed the blood-stained shirt into the laundry basket. There's no breath. Because when he turned around, he wasn't like himself anymore. The man strode out the door in the morning light. I clenched the military medal on my cuff, my resolve to divorce strengthened. At this hour, grandmother should be getting up too. Then I should have a good talk with her about the divorce. Counting it up, I'm the 4th marriage arranged by the Xia family for Alistair. The previous 3 fell through because the Xia family had too many rules. Only I sharpened my head and wanted to marry in. Even Alistair himself said, "Eleanor, haven't we never even met? And you're already so deeply in love with me?" So, when I proposed a divorce without warning, grandmother spat out a mouthful of tea. Disregarding propriety, her aged eyebrows furrowed together. Just for that little girl he brought back? Seeing that I didn't answer, grandmother immediately spoke. "If you can't stand her, just chase her away." That temper that explodes at the slightest thing, just being in the Xia garden is an eyesore to me. Grandmother, as a predecessor who adhered to the rules, had practically engraved the Xia family's precepts in her bones. It was understandable that she didn't like Piper. I shook my head, and poured her another cup of tea. It's because. Before I could finish speaking, Alistair, wearing a coat, hastily barged in. "Eleanor, what on earth did you feed my junior sister? She's vomiting and diarrhea all over the place, her face is turning green." I looked helplessly at grandmother, with an aggrieved expression. She knocked Alistair on the back with her cane. "Alistair, look at what you look like now. Raising your voice at Eleanor for an outsider woman, is that how the Xia family taught you?" Because grandmother was present, no matter how dissatisfied Alistair was, he could only give up. a person so old, thin as a bone, but spoke with great confidence. Eleanor, that thing you mentioned. As long as Chang-su agrees, this grandmother of mine has nothing to say. It's a matter for the two of you. The two of you should make your own decisions. Grandmother refilled the tea, closed the door to guests, giving Alistair a fierce glance as she swept over him. Unfortunately, he didn't understand. As soon as the door closed, Alistair had no more scruples. The person who usually cared so much about deportment grabbed me and pinned me against the wall, without any regard. Eleanor, it wasn't enough for you to drug my junior sister. Now you're even finding grandmother to support you. Let me tell you, Piper's research isn't finished. I won't let any of you chase her away. I didn't resist, letting his hand squeeze my neck, my eyes filled with tears. Alistair, is that really what you think of me? Warm tears landed on the back of his hand. Alistair's breath caught. 5 years of marriage, he was still a little shaken after all. But Piper, wearing only a thin coat, came running over, trembling. Probably because her stomach was acting up so badly, her whole face was pale. Senior brother, don't be angry with Eleanor because of me. She's such a kind person, even the cats in the Xie garden like her. How could she be the one who poisoned me? It must be that I ate something bad. These words, for Alistair, were undoubtedly pouring oil on the fire. She didn't? Then who did? Piper, you're so well behaved, you comply with everything in the Xie garden. How could anyone else have any intentions towards you? I sneered inwardly. For the past 2 months, the entire Xie garden had been in an uproar. Fourth aunt's cats were forcibly released by Piper. Third aunt's entire room of treasured Chongsams were burned. Even the Xie garden's plantation was now forced to start using organic fertilizer. All this, simply because Piper said she wanted to break the old customs and establish new rules. The Xie family didn't want to offend Alistair overtly. But secretly, who knows how many people wanted to get rid of Piper? She was so sure that I was the one who poisoned her. Simply because she believed that I was easy to bully with no support behind me. Between me and her, Alistair would never protect me. Sure enough, the look in Alistair's eyes turned cold little by little, like frost forming. Eleanor, since you say it wasn't you, then tell me, why weren't you in your room at that time last night? My lips trembled again, and finally I looked at him helplessly. Alistair, then tell me, what reason do I have to deal with your little junior sister? You. Alistair's face almost turned blue, but he couldn't say a reason. I knew what he wanted to say but stopped, what was stuck in his heart. He saw the quilt at the entrance of the ancestral hall. He knew that I had gone to look for him. But he didn't know if I had caught him and his little junior sister, turning the ancestral hall upside down. I looked up, tears streaming down from the deep lines on my face. Alistair, don't you want an answer? Then I'll tell you. Last night, as long as I thought about you kneeling in the ancestral hall, I couldn't sleep at all. Running out in the middle of the night to clear my head, just because I felt too stupid. So stupid that for so many years, I couldn't see that you didn't have the heart to protect me. 5 years since coming to the Xie family, my emotions haven't been so turbulent for a long time. To confide my heart at this moment, my heart even gave birth to a few moments of joy. Alistair's throat seemed to be choked by a large stone. Eleanor, I waved his hand away, despairingly said, Alistair, there's no need to explain. Let's get a divorce. A breeze passed through, scattering the long hair behind my ear. Alistair didn't react for a moment what I had just said. Even the woman standing behind him, her face paled a bit. He looked at me in disbelief. What did you say? I calmly repeated, tightening the cardigan around me. Divorce. Alistair was enraged. Eleanor, where did you learn this new trick from again? Do you think I'll be attracted to you like this? I watched him with a cold smile. 5 years into our marriage, Alistair always felt that everything I did was to win his favor, to please him. Our marriage was laughable to this extent. He only ever remembered me as the eldest daughter-in-law of the Xie family, but he forgot that I also had my own past, my own pursuits. Article 131 of the Xie family rules. Alistair, it's my fault as your wife for making you suspicious of me. As you wish, I'll divorce you. Alistair paused, stunned for a few moments. as if considering whether there was such a rule in the family code. The expression on his face even had a hint of reluctance. Eleanor, I am suspicious of you, but... Just as he was about to change his tune, Piper collapsed weakly into his arms. That little bit of nostalgia vanished without a trace. Looking at my straight back, he laughed. Divorce is fine. But Eleanor, you better not run too far. In a few days, it's grandfather's birthday banquet, and he only recognizes you as his granddaughter-in-law. Moving scene by scene through the Tiergarten, I walked past flowing water and arched bridges, burning this face, so unlike the Alistair in my memory, into my mind, without a trace of lingering affection. No need, Alistair. Let Piper go in my place. There are 3,000 articles in the Xia family rules, one of which has been heavily emphasized many times. A flower that blooms twice can never enter the Xia family again. Alistair doesn't know, but I'm not planning on coming back to this Xia family. The thing I wanted to find, I've already found it. And now, I stroke the military medal in my pocket. Alistair, I'm coming for you. Seeing Eleanor's figure completely disappear from the Tiergarten, Alistair cautiously jumped out from behind the rockery, even after convincing himself in his heart many times that he only came because he was worried that Piper would be bullied by Eleanor. He still couldn't erase the lingering sense of loss in his heart. Piper wasn't surprised to see him. She happily ran over, without any sign of her diarrhea-induced exhaustion. Senior brother, what are you doing here? Weren't you angry? We agreed to let me see Eleanor's sister off for you. Alistair lowered his eyes for a long time. Looking at the slightly tight-laced dress on Piper's body, he was silent. Why didn't he realize before? Eleanor was so thin. The woman, complacent, coquettishly leaned forward. Ignoring the gardeners pruning the garden, she was about to kiss Alistair. But Alistair felt a burning sensation on his face and pushed her away. Didn't she leave anything behind? Piper pulled out a thick letter and threw it into Alistair's arms. What era is this, still using this kind of thing? Probably just another long and boring family code, leaving behind these unlucky things even after she's gone. Alistair wasn't in the mood to argue. On the unfolded pages was Eleanor's beautiful calligraphy in the style of flowing hairpins. When Eleanor first entered the Xia family, her handwriting was like chicken scratch. Now this beautiful handwriting was copied stroke by stroke from the calligraphy models he had left behind over the years. It seemed that every night he came home late, Eleanor was in the study, and when she ran out to pour him tea and water, her sleeves always carried the scent of ink. In the past, Alistair only found this smell musty and unpleasant, but now he faintly tasted a bit of peace of mind. Holding the thick pages of letter paper, Alistair smiled. He knew it, this woman would never give him up so easily. But the more he read, the colder Alistair's arrogant face became. Remember to go to grandmother's courtyard to greet her after waking up in the morning, and after her afternoon nap. The old lady has been suffering from indigestion recently. Go to Xuanfeng Hall every 3 days to get Chinese medicine and decoct it. The blue and white one in the fish pond is Uncle's favorite. You can use fish food to lure it. Great-grandfather doesn't like outsiders accompanying him. You need to be at the hospital no later than 8 o'clock. He will wake up twice during the night, and age-appropriate equipment needs to be installed in the ward. Dense instructions, all about the people that needed to be taken care of up and down the Tiergarten. Even Alistair himself was stunned. He had lived in the Tiergarten for so many years, how didn't he know that there were so many insignificant people in his family, and so many insignificant things? In an instant, Eleanor's plain face became hateful again in his heart. Alistair tore the letter paper to shreds and threw it into the trash can. Is Eleanor reminding me that the entire Tiergarten can't do without her for a day? How ridiculous, outsider actually thinks of herself as the owner. He was going to throw this self-righteous wife out of his mind. During these days she wasn't in the Tiergarten. He would do all the outrageous things he didn't have time to do in his youth. To prove it, that he, Alistair, truly didn't love her, Eleanor. As soon as my luggage arrived in Nanyu, I received a call from grandmother. Eleanor, you are still my Xia family's eldest daughter-in-law. Who did you learn this set of disappearing without saying goodbye from? I held a plate of stinky tofu and calmly replied, Grandmother, I'm not anymore now. My divorce agreement with Alistair is already on your desk. As expected, the old lady immediately hung up the phone in anger. She couldn't have missed it. She was just playing dumb. After all, a daughter-in-law as obedient and considerate as me isn't easy to find anywhere, without those annoying Sia family rules. I almost returned to being the little tyrant I was back in Nanyu, gathering friends, ordering 13 male models at the bar in one go, one on each side, enjoying myself immensely. But a friend looked at me with a puzzled expression. Old Eleanor, am I having face blindness? Why do all these faces look kind of alike? Everyone knows each other well. And after the first one, there was a second. What, 5 years on the bench in Yunzhou wasn't enough? Still can't forget him? Someone added. Girls, let's be direct. We don't even know if he's alive or dead anymore. Surrounded by the crowd, I was stunned for a few seconds and, without a second thought, dismissed all the men in the room. I used to think Alistair was lying to me, until I found this at the Sia's house. The reason I went to the Sia's house, the reason I kept saying I wanted to marry Alistair. It was all because 5 years ago, in the war zone, someone had bluntly rejected me. Eleanor, we're not right for each other. Don't waste your time on me. He said we weren't right for each other, but I insisted that we were a match made in heaven. But I never expected that even his name was a lie, until I found that military medal in the old garden. He might not be from the Xie family, but he must have stayed there. I pushed the roughly carved wooden sculpture onto the desk. Everyone, who had been acting like monkeys just escaped from Flower Fruit Mountain, stopped laughing. Eleanor, don't tell me you're planning to run off to the war zone again. I wondered if it was inappropriate to say these things at such a lively gathering. But some things can't be hidden. It was like that 5 years ago, and it's like that now. I've booked a ticket to G Country for a week from now. The cups and glasses in the room, the liquor, shone golden under the lights. Low, almost inaudible sobs, fists pounded on me. Eleanor, are you stupid? Just for one person, is it worth it? The friends who stayed in Nanyu are all married with kids. Reading the news, working in television, with jobs that last a lifetime. Seriously, Eleanor. I'd rather you stayed in Yunzhou than be wandering around like this. I smiled and didn't deny it. When I chose to become a war correspondent after graduation, I became an outlier. Now it's just going all the way down a dark path. These days, I've been remembering too many things, can't sleep. I went out onto the balcony and lit a cigarette. It's been almost 5 years since I last smoked, and I almost coughed up a lung. If he were here, he would definitely snatch the cigarette from my hand and scold me harshly. Eleanor, I really regret bringing you along. You don't learn the good things, you just pick up my bad habits. I was only 19 when I met Alistair. Everyone praised me for my talent, finishing all 4 years of university courses at 19. I had always been treated like a treasured phoenix, high-spirited and arrogant. When people in my class, older than me, were choosing between joining a TV station or taking civil service exams, I made a decision that shocked everyone. I'm going to G Country to be a war correspondent. Alistair was the garrison soldier in the war zone I went to. 2 stars hung on his shoulders, like a bamboo pole that would never bend. The war in G Country was difficult, and the soldiers were even harder to manage. Local militia forces would occasionally rush into the garrison. If they held them off, they could barely catch a few hours of sleep. If they didn't, they could only move the camp, stepping on their comrades' corpses. Alistair was the commander, a sniper who could take out enemies' heads from hundreds of meters away with his rifle. At that time, I was also full of energy, fearlessly rushing to the front lines to press the shutter. Several times, Alistair dragged me out of the smoke by the collar. Soldiers have a bottom line, they can't point guns at the people. Alistair didn't care, pointing his gun at my temple. Little reporter, did you come to the war zone to die? I also stubbornly pointed my camera at his face. If he dared to shoot, I would make sure everyone publicly condemned him as a criminal. The flash made him furrow his brow. He raised his hand and pressed down on my lens. Don't photograph me. I raised my head. I've already taken a lot. He snatched my camera, then delete them all. That's how I met him. Tit for tat, neither willing to give in. Until the Great Retreat in G Country, enemy spies infiltrated the army. I had just returned from the bathhouse. I didn't even have time to pack my luggage, and was stuffed into a truck by the soldiers in charge of the evacuation. In the face of life and death, I hadn't shed a tear when I saw bullets whizzing past my shoulders. But the day I realized my camera and USB drive were lost, I cried bitterly. My photos were gone, and the pride I relied on for survival was completely destroyed by the war. The Great Retreat lasted for 3 days. Half the sky burned red. As I was sobbing uncontrollably, a duffel bag was thrown next to me. The stench of blood mixed with sweat, and then Alistair's dark, heavy eyes. Tisk tsk little reporter, crying like this. Do you want me to take a picture of you right now? Alistair had broken 3 ribs and brought out all my belongings. I scolded him for being stupid, for being an idiot, and finally asked him, why? He lay in the hospital bed, coughing up blood. Someone has to see these things, right? Someone has to see. Only then would it be worthy of the people who died silently in the war. That wasn't the original intention of me choosing to be a war correspondent. But it became the thing I was most persistent about later. Because of Alistair. From 19 to 22 years old, I stood shoulder to shoulder with Alistair, pressing the shutter in the hail of bullets, and entering the encirclement of drug dealers, arguing over a single ampoule of morphine in a hospital full of limbs, and seeing the stars under the raging fire. Countless times I aimed the shutter at Alistair. His answer was always a refusal. Don't photograph me. I was stubborn. Why aren't you worth being seen? The answer Alistair gave me then left me completely bewildered. He said, does a shadow need to be seen? I didn't even have time to discuss this issue with him before the most intense counterattack arrived. Unfortunately, this time I was a step too late. For the sake of the precious archives in my camera, I was captured by the enemy. A woman's usefulness on the battlefield is very limited. My camera and my education didn't bring any higher price than other prisoners. When I sliced open my sleeve, revealing the massive amount of sleeping pills I'd secretly hidden, blood dripped down my hair, a red that made my heart clench. I didn't understand why someone who could become a captain within 3 years of graduation wasn't worth being seen, while I was worth him risking his life to save. We eventually escaped, but Alistair paid the price. The hands that could set the record for the longest shot were amputated. After the anesthetic wore off, Alistair's eyes were unfocused. Little reporter, am I never going to get a first-class merit again? I didn't understand why Alistair wanted a first-class merit so badly. But I secretly bought all the materials and made a very crude medal. I heard from the people in the barracks that it was Alistair's birthday that day. He looked at the medal and smoked half a pack of cigarettes. I knew his wound hurt, and I could feel the hatred in his eyes. But I couldn't think of any way to make him feel better. That was the first cigarette I ever smoked. It tasted damp and moldy, and choked me until my whole face was red. Alistair finally managed to smile, and pushed my head away, following me, not learning anything good, just picking up bad habits. I looked at his sunken cheeks and dark circles under his eyes. For some inexplicable reason, tears welled up in my eyes. I said, Alistair, I can be even worse, do you want to see? The embers fell to the ground. In G country, this stale, expired cigarette was ridiculously expensive. Alistair was stunned for a long time. Some things between a man and a woman don't need to be stated too clearly. But that night I didn't succeed, even though I tried everything I could. Alistair wouldn't touch me. He said, Eleanor, it's against the rules. That was the last time I saw Alistair. I heard from the people in the army that he had gone on a special mission, and wouldn't be back for 5 years. He didn't leave me anything. He deleted all the photos related to him, even just the ones of his back. After that, 2 months. I recorded the most brutal side of the G country battlefield almost nonstop. I was hit in the right chest by a bullet. My press pass and my ambition were hidden in the bottom layer of my luggage. I entrusted all my friends to find information about a person. His name was Alistair. He was in Yinzhou, in the Xie family. So I became the rigid and orderly Eleanor. For 5 years, there wasn't a moment I didn't want to ask him why. But more than knowing the answer, I hoped he was alive. My dreams were filled with the gunshots and artillery fire of G country. It felt like I could always smell the stench of blood and burning corpses. So when Alistair's phone call came, Looking at those 3 words felt like redemption. Hello, is that you? My voice was trembling, like a precious gift that had been lost and found. There was a pause on the other end, mixed with a faint hint of longing and surprise. It's me, Eleanor. Where are you? That wasn't my Alistair. Cold water splashed on my face, and I suddenly woke up. Alistair, you and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. Everything about the Sia family, I've written it all down in. The always at ease young master, for the first time, seemed a little flustered. I know, Eleanor. But I can't handle it. Really. For the sake of his high and mighty dignity, for the sake of not bowing to me. Alistair tried to piece together the envelope he had torn to shreds, but the Sia family was like a spider web, able to strangle the vitality of everyone who lived on it. Alistair had to admit that he needed me. Hearing that made me want to laugh. The words he had given me back then, I returned them to him exactly as they were. Alistair, you know what kind of place the Sia family is. I've already wasted 5 years. Do you want me to waste my whole life for it? On the other end of the phone, Alistair smiled wryly. Without any pity, I said, Alistair, you're not worthy. 5 years ago, my heart was set on finding him, on forcing that suitability with him. But until now, receiving Alistair's phone call, I finally understood why he had to push me away. The most beautiful plumage would also dim in the Sia family's household. He would rather I die weary on the battlefield than live such a corrupt life. It was so quiet that I could hear Alistair's breathing. Piper asked him for help. Alistair, did I cause trouble again? This time, without the past tolerance and gentleness, Alistair scolded angrily, Shut up. My voice was clear and scattered. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Wait, Alistair took a deep breath, as if he had broken his back. Grandfather's birthday banquet can't be held. He doesn't have many happy days left. He said he only recognizes you as his granddaughter-in-law. Alistair hadn't changed. He still thought that what I wanted was his and the entire Sia family's recognition. But the person who could grit their teeth and endure any rule, no matter how harsh, had already died when they decided to leave the Sia family. Alistair were divorced. Even if the old man is going to have an accident and needs someone to attend, it shouldn't be me. We've been married for 5 years, but we haven't had any marital relations. Even if he wants to recognize a granddaughter-in-law before he dies, he should recognize Piper. The wind was howling, and Alistair on the other end of the phone was like a mute. For a long time he kept saying you. When did you know? I calmly recalled, taking a deep breath of cold air. The ancestral hall. I knew from the moment you didn't push her away. Alistair pondered for a long time, and when he spoke again, there was a hint of no return. That night, I was temporarily blinded by my senses. But Eleanor, I swear to you, I have you in my heart. These days, Piper has turned the entire Sia family upside down, and even half of the old man's illness was caused by her. If we really let the old man go just like that, I'll be letting down the ancestors of the Sia family. Eleanor, come back, please? Alistair kept rambling on, telling me about some joke Piper had made at Sia Garden. I had no patience to listen anymore. I will return to the Sia family, but only if it's for my Alistair. This time, my trip to Country G was because a former comrade of Alistair's found me after several detours. He said that the base was moving soon. Alistair's belongings and files were still with him, but no family members had responded. He could only temporarily entrust them to me. In just 1 week, Alistair, who was far away in Yunzhou, called me countless times. I hung up on him directly every time. Seeing his latest message, he was already on his way to Nanyu. But at that time, I was already on the plane to Country G. The cold wind was bleak, even though the post-war reconstruction was in full swing. The scarred wasteland still proved that war had taken place on this land. What was handed to me was a thick diary. Alistair's most common writing style in front of outsiders was delicate, ornate calligraphy. This is also why I insisted on practicing calligraphy for a few hours. Even when I was exhausted at the Sia family, that handwriting always made me feel closer to Alistair. But the writing in the diary was a bit more Laocao cursory, and the file had been taken out by the person in charge of safekeeping and placed beside him. Xiao Qiu, you journalists have the sharpest eyes. Take a look. Does the person in this photo look like Alistair? I leaned over with doubt. The next moment, my heart felt like it was being clenched. Regardless of whether Alistair is dead or alive now, his most eye-catching feature in the past was his sharp jawline. But the person in this photo is gentle and handsome. Like he was cut from the same mold as the Alistair I've been living with day and night for the past 5 years. Or rather, the person in my memory never existed. He was just a shadow, paving all the difficult paths for the real Alistair. It's just that no one in the Sia family thought that a pawn would bravely jump out of the chessboard for a passerby, becoming a dead piece. I don't know how I got on the plane or returned to Nanyu. I only remember that the diary in my arms felt like it weighed a ton. At the airport, Alistair somehow found out about my arrival and came to block me with a bright bouquet of flowers. Iris's Clematis gloriosa lilies. Restrained but elegant, in line with Alistair's identity. Eleanor, I've been waiting for you long enough. Stop messing with me. The entire Sia family is waiting for us to go back. Even in such an urgent situation, he still had that arrogant air when he looked at people. Clearly here to invite me, but still acting with condescension. I casually threw the bouquet he gave me into the trash can. There was no longer any of the former weakness in my eyes. If you want me to go back with you, fine. But grandfather's funeral arrangements must be left to me. Alistair agreed without hesitation. Okay, I can even leave Piper to you as well. I sneered. That kind of dirty thing, you can keep it. Just as Alistair said. In the short half-month I was gone, the Sia family was in complete chaos. As soon as I put down my luggage, people looking for me filled the entire courtyard. Eleanor, grandmother has been feeling unwell for 2 whole days and can't eat anything. Please go see her. You're cleaning up the mess for that girl Alistair brought back, aren't you? This is a list of the things she's broken these days. The compensation bill has been sent to your desk. The guest list, the standard of drinks and meals, are all waiting for you to come back and decide. I handled everything in an orderly manner, looking even more like the eldest daughter-in-law than Eleanor ever did. Late at night, I turned off the lights in the study. As soon as I left the room, I was pulled into a hot embrace. Alistair's kisses kept falling behind my ear, his drunken voice mixed with emotion whispering, Eleanor, only when you're here do I feel like the Sia family is a home. You don't know how I've been these past few days. Piper keeps coming to me, trying to get into my arms, but when I see her wearing your clothes, I feel disgusted. Taking it too far makes one annoying. It's someone like you, who is steady and calm, that makes me happy. Alistair never used to confide in me like this. Even when he was emotional, he would run into the bathroom to take a hot shower. The arranged marriage was an insurmountable barrier between me and him. Now in order to get me back, he broke the Sia family's ancestral teachings once again. He received 50 lashes in the ancestral hall, and was on the verge of death. But as soon as he was treated, he was already in the mood to say these things to me. That proves those people didn't hit hard enough. I slapped him hard across the face. The old man hasn't even passed away yet, and you're thinking about these things. Alistair, do you even deserve to be the eldest grandson of the Sia family? I slammed the door and left, as if enraged by his frivolous behavior. Going through a few gardens, I deftly slipped into that abandoned old garden. Only this place in the huge Sia family made me feel less terrible, less cold, and wouldn't drag me into a decaying hell. The last time I stumbled in, it was just a quick glance. But this time, shining the flashlight, I looked at every place, and every place had traces of him left behind. I could almost imagine him scratching his head over unsolved math problems, the tip of his pen poking into the table. There were many holes left by slingshots in the pine trees, and the corner of the wall had been kicked into a hexagon by a soccer ball. He must have been a lively and playful teenager in the past, but only after realizing the meaning of his existence. Was there no possibility of freedom? Everyone in Yunzhou who was anyone was invited by me to the funeral. According to Sia family rules, the deceased would be laid in state in the ancestral hall. After the 7-day funeral, they would be buried in the most ancient way. After all the relatives who could be named had finished crying, Alistair and I, as the eldest grandson and daughter-in-law of the Sia family in this generation, stepped forward to kneel. Alistair put on his usual show, kowtowing as if thunder was striking. until he raised his head and saw that I was still standing in front of the futon, not even bending my knees. "Eleanor, what are you thinking?" In his eyes, I've always been the most well-behaved. But this time, I'll be the one to personally break it all, to shatter the Yunzhou elite's praise for the Xie family. I kicked away his hand, clenched my fist, and gritted my teeth. "Alistair, I'm just thinking. How many people like you are there in the Xie family, and how many people have died silently for you?" Alistair looked at me in astonishment. "Eleanor, what are you saying?" He knew perfectly well what I was saying, but he was playing dumb. But it was already too late. All the lights in the ancestral hall were extinguished. The scribbled handwriting in the notebook was projected onto the white silk that filled the hall. April 7th, 2013, on my birthday, they told me that from now on, I would be called Alistair. They also chose my major for me, to go to military academy, and after graduation, to go to the southern war zone of G country, starting as a soldier. No one even told me when this name would end for me, whether it would be when I received a first-class merit, when everyone saw it, rewarded it, and no one could take away my honor, or when I die. In 2018, when I met him in the southern war zone of G country, he was already a captain bearing the name Alistair. He saved me from the battlefield many times, and he defended the people of G country from countless unprepared battles, saving countless lives. But until the day we separated, I still didn't know his name. So I came to the Xie family, wanting to find an answer. I lowered my eyes, my heart as cold as ashes, and looked at Alistair. Now I found it. The light in the ancestral hall turned back on, the projection turned off by someone. Grandmother wanted nothing more than to hit me with her cane. "Eleanor, you are the Xie family's eldest daughter-in-law. What outrageous things are you saying to smear the Xie family? I'm telling you, everything the Xie family has today is thanks to generations of Xie family working hard for it. There's absolutely none of what you said." An old woman with so much saliva she could drown someone. I casually ripped a piece of white silk off and threw it in her face and laughed. "Is that so? But I majored in journalism, and to seek the truth, you have to seek it to the end." Long before grandfather's funeral began, I contacted all my friends and classmates who are still in the media industry, and had them all spread this notebook across the internet. Although no one in the Xie family will remember these nameless people, but there will definitely be people who remember that they were once brilliant. For example, the comrades in arms who traveled with them, the people who benefited from them. Or, like me, a silly girl who fell in love with someone whose name she didn't even know. People who smelled the blood on this fat sheep, the Xie family, began to move. The elites who came didn't seem to be there to offer condolences. Instead, they seemed to be raring to go, trying to swallow this fat sheep whole, sucking it dry until there was nothing left. Chaos erupted in Xie Garden, and many female relatives began to pack up their valuable jewelry. Alistair was still kneeling on the futon, as if petrified. "Eleanor, so that day you appeared there, it wasn't because you were lost." I snorted lightly, shattering his self-deception. "It was an accident, Alistair. I searched for him for 5 years, and there wasn't a trace of him in the entire Xie Garden. As for you, you aren't even worth a strand of his hair. I originally wanted to just leave it at that, but I didn't expect you to give me such a big gift." Watching the light in his eyes extinguish little by little, my heart was filled with only pleasure. Back then, he was the one who made my Alistair live in despair like this, wasn't he? Now he should taste that feeling too. One stone stirred up 1,000 waves. The internet was filled with outrage, and some even threw out comparison photos. The Xie family wasn't the only one doing this kind of dirty business in Yunzhou. There were many more remnants who had survived from feudal times by changing their names. The official action was also swift, and after rapidly collecting information, a small team was sent to the Xie family. They took Alistair and all those mentioned in the notebook who knew about it for questioning. I cooperated fully and submitted the evidence I had collected. As I was about to leave the interrogation room, the police officer in charge of the case stopped me. "Miss Eleanor, there might be some news you'd like to know." I rubbed my tired temples. "Is it news about him?" The policewoman nodded. "He didn't die. The Xie family's excuse about participating in a special mission was just a pretext." After they knew he would never have a chance to earn merit again, the Xie family removed him from their ranks. Now he's guarding a cemetery in Yinzhou. My eyes trembled, and tears fell from my eyes. 5 years, I finally heard news about him. But he doesn't want to see you. I was silent for a long time, and when I raised my face again, all the persistence and stubbornness in my heart were completely shed. The face with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes in the photo seemed to appear in front of me again. Eleanor, how many times have I told you, don't take pictures of me? If that's what he wants, it seems, I can accept it too. Can I know his name? The policewoman went back into the interrogation room again, and fiddled around for a long time, and handed me a small piece of paper. On it was written his real name. Reese. I sat down on the ground, holding a small carving knife I bought from a hardware store, and gradually erased the name on that military medal, and re-engraved Reese. Please give it to him for me. In my heart, he has always been my hero. In this world, everyone is just dealing with their own snow. The heavy snow night that trapped me for 5 years finally dawned bright today, and I should also pick up my camera to shine light into the next long night.